Welcome back to another episode of Brilliantly Resilient Live, the Easter episode on Easter. We are so excited that we're able to, we've been doing this live every day since we started 3.5 weeks
It's been a long 3 weeks.
Mary Fran gets to look at me every
day.
And for those of you that are listening on the podcast, you can't see the ginormous smile that Mary Fran has on her face right now. And she's spending Easter here with me on Brilliantly Resilient.
What's that thing with the Chevy Chase? Easter, holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving. Is a Christmas Vacation where she says something to him, when did I mess up a holiday? And he just goes on. The wife goes on and on. Every holiday, every blessed day I'm with you. But it's all good. And today we have an amazing person joining us who can talk to you for part of the time, and I don't have to do it all the time. So that's good.
And it's a wrap.
And we're done.
Isn't Mary Fran brilliant, Henry? I mean, come on.
Of all the brilliant people I've ever met, she probably is the top three. At least in the top three.
At any rate, you guys, we have Henry Penix on here today that took time out of his Easter to come and chat with us. You know, we've been dedicating our Sunday episodes to faith as a tool of resilience, because what Mary Fran and I realized after knowing each other for 2 years and having I guess we have a competition going of how many sucker punches we can take in life to see who gets the most to bounce back from. And then we found out that just not that long ago that faith is in both of our toolboxes for resilience. So we're dedicating our Sunday episodes, and now we get to talk on Easter, which Easter looks a whole lot different this year in the middle of a pandemic. Weird, right, you guys?
I'd be in the kitchen cooking right now. Honestly, in a normal. What about you, Henry? Where would you be? First of all, welcome. And what would you be doing in a normal Easter?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I have never had a normal Easter because of travel schedule and depending on where I am. But definitely this world is abnormal this Easter. I mean, you've got your typical Sunday, services that no one is doing right now. There's a couple of churches in Tulsa. This is where I live. And they're actually doing a thing like an outdoor drive-in theater. So they've got a couple of pastors that have been put on top of the church, or the awnings at the top of the church, and people are pulling in their cars, and they teamed up with the local radio station to get a certain frequency so that they can broadcast in people's cars. So you can turn on the radio, look up, watch the pastor talk on top of the roof, and listen to it in your car.
I want to do that.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
We
got to bring that to Bucks County, Mary Fran. Come on.
Oh my gosh.
That reminds me of Shady Brook Farm.
When the kids were when we were little kids, there were still big drive-in theaters, and we used to get in our pajamas and all, and our parents would take us to them. That would be so fun.
Yeah, no, I remember. I, on the other hand, chose to get in front of this ginormous lion and do this live.
Way more fun.
So what the heck?
I'm having a hard time deciding what to look at, you or the lion. I have to be honest, because that is one gorgeous picture of a lion. It is beautiful.
Well, this is and I did this on an earlier podcast. I was being interviewed last week, and I said, and no disrespect at all, I've got a sense of humor, so please just deal with it. But because of the coronavirus, I said, you've got corona if you can't tell the difference between me and this. Which one's Henry? Which one is the lion? That's the first test. How's your sight? How are you seeing things these days?
Yeah.
So
there you go.
Oh, that's feverish yet. So I love that idea. You have an interesting background as far as faith goes, Henry. Share some of that with, because I know Kristin met you through, she did your podcast, and I don't think she was aware at the time of your relationship with faith and the church and all of that. And then she passed that information on to me, and it doesn't, and forgive me for this, which sounds probably like an assumption, it doesn't really jive with your public persona. So I'm happy that you came on to talk to us about this, because this is what we want to show, how people who may seem to be one thing have a spiritual side.
Yeah. So, when you dig deep enough into people and you see who they are at their core, I think that's sort of the first way you really get to know somebody. You can look at all the external stuff, you can look at the PR stuff and all that, but if you really get to have a conversation with someone like we're having today, and I appreciate you guys having me on, you get to find out about that person. So when Kristin and I did a podcast episode, I usually end my episodes in 15, 20 minutes. We went about 25. It was an amazing episode. And toward the end, we brought up faith a little bit, like maybe for 60 seconds. And I just got this, this feeling on the inside. You know, I think we're more spirit than we are flesh, personally. So when my spirit sort of started to feel that, I go, Kristin, I've never done this before, and I haven't. And I've interviewed a lot of people from all over the world, all different walks of life. And I said, do you mind doing a part 2 sometime? Because I think we were just getting ready to touch on something that would be very important for users to hear, or listeners to hear. And she goes, well, yeah, I'd love to do that. And the more I talked to her, I couldn't stop talking to her. And I said, you know what? Like, you want to do this right now? Like, I know we're both working from our homes. I know we've got to, stay 6 feet from everybody. I go, how about doing it now? She goes, okay, I got to go put up the dogs. I got to go make sure the kids are okay. Give me a couple minutes. I said, I do too. I've got a dog barking right now. Let's meet back here in 5 and do this. And so we did that second episode, and it was amazing. And we touched more on faith and the true core to anybody. Nobody wants to be a public success and a private failure. So privately, when you get to know someone and you start telling them what really makes up the inside of you, that's the real authentic you. And that's what I think people need to hear. So yes, faith has been a huge part of my life. I don't mean to ramble, but I grew up a preacher's kid, and I'm not offended if you guys want to stop me. So at any time, if you've got questions, just throw a
Mary Fran does. Mary Fran just jumps right in there and cuts you off and says,
"Oh, I'll stop you. I'll stop you."
I can tell that about her, and I've only known her for 5 minutes. So,
I will stop you.
Yeah.
But actually, I do want to get deeper into that, because it was funny because before we started recording, we were having this great conversation, and you dropped so many brilliance bombs on us, and I was like, okay, just stop talking right now and tell us that when we get on the air, because you brought up this idea about, and I think we hear this a lot, that when your children and your family is enmeshed in the faith, you are, I don't want to say force-fed it, but it's what you know, it's what you grow up with. And then as we get older, a lot of times people move away, and you had a similar journey. So tell us about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I grew up in the church as a little bitty kid. I took guitar lessons so that I could play in the church band. There were 3 or 4 people in the band, and then I learned how to play piano and drums and bass guitar and all that, and just would kind of fill in and help my father, who was the pastor, with all the services. So when I was little, like from probably 5, 6 years old, growing up to 17, 18 years old, I was always in church, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. I did all of the revivals. I've been in tents. I've been in all this stuff that just would blow your mind. We would be coming in at 1, 2 in the morning, and I would have to get up at 8 in the morning for school and go try to live a normal life. And so I've always had this spiritual connection, but when I was young, I was forced to have it. And as I was talking to you about it earlier, when you're forced to do something, if you're like me, because I've got a little bit of a rebellion in me anyway, and I'm very curious. So I want to know the other side. I want to know why I'm being forced. I want the answers. And so for me, I kind of flipped the table, and in high school and college, I started trying to do everything that I was taught not to do. I don't advise people to do that, but in the Bible where it says all things do work together for your good, I saw that other side, and then I came back to faith because I wanted to. I wasn't serving my Creator because I had to, but because I wanted to. And sort of a very long story short, and I've seen it all. I've seen it all. Imagine being in that many services, going that many times a week, and being all over the nation doing it. I've seen it all, and I know what's real. I know what's true. That's why today I key in on the unconditional love of God, not a religion, not what your priest, pastor, preacher, pope says, but the unconditional of love and the unconditional love of God. So if the unconditional love of God isn't in something, I really don't listen to it, and I watch my influences. I've seen so many people in the church try to point their finger at people and say, You know, if you go to that movie, or if you wear certain jewelry, if you have your hair a certain way, or if you say a certain word, you know, you're toast. Like, you're not going to be blessed. You're going to do this, you're going to do that. And a lot of that is just to control people groups.
Yeah.
And I think when we step beyond that control and sort of submit to our Creator and know that nothing happens by chance or by accident, and measure everything against the backdrop of an unconditional loving God. You know, God doesn't send these things to harm us, but he's got everything in control. When I was a little boy, I used to sing, he's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. You know, and he does.
You had to do the points and the claps too, right?
No, that was for you. That was for you. Okay, we're gonna try it again. We're gonna try it again, Mary.
We're gonna try it again?
Just because I like you. We're gonna do it. He's
Okay.
got the whole world
in his hands. Oh, that's it. We need that part.
The whole world
in his hands. Oh, I love it.
The whole world
in his hands.
He's got the whole world
in his hands.
Yes,
I remember
yes.
the end of that.
And guys, he does. He's got me. He's got you. He's got the red, yellow, black, and white. He's got whatever religion out of the 4,000 that exist. He's got those in his hands. He's got this virus in his hands. And he is an unconditional, loving God that will get us through this, bless us, help us, keep us safe, and get us to the other side.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that people just can't get their heads around that, because it's the way that they're looking at it. You know, like I told you on your podcast about when I was looking at blindness as devastation, because I didn't know anything about it. I don't look at blindness as a blessing or a curse anymore. It just is. This
Right.
virus just is. It's
Right.
the reaction. And the people that are looking for all of the hate and anger and upsetment around it, that's all that they're going to see. But the people that are in the unconditional love lane,
Right.
that there is good, there's so much good happening.
Right.
Yes, there's so much hardship, but there's so much more good. And that's where we talk about, yes, we're all in a group sucker punch now, the entire globe. But that's why we decided to do this daily, to talk about how you reset and rise with this sucker punch, where your life can go. Yes. Okay. Your business just shut down. You know, you're out of money. You're trying to figure it all out. So are the rest of us. Yep. So are the rest of us. This is the one time when everybody's life sucks at the same time.
No, I know. Or everybody's life is being reset right now for a reason.
Yes.
And I think being reset for a reason is what we need to key in on. And like you said so wonderfully, we don't key in on the negative stuff, and we don't see everything that we can gripe and moan and complain about, but we look at how this is ultimately going to work out for our good. When we have such efficiencies that have met with America right now, when we know how to do things online, when you and I can talk like this, I mean, I don't know if this would have happened this quickly if we would have been in the other world where we could go out and I'm traveling all the time and meeting people and all that. This has given me a chance to reset and settle my life and focus in on me and the ones that I love around me. And so far, it's been an amazing journey over these last few weeks.
Yeah.
You know, when you just said the words like settle into your life. And I think, you know, Kristin and I have talked about exactly what you just said. Under our normal plan for this and given our normal lives, none of this stuff would have happened right now. And I think we have to look at the blessing and the opportunity that comes with all of this. And it's interesting because, you know, with what you guys were just talking about a minute ago, my husband and I often say that I don't know what you know about my story, but my son, my oldest, dealt with drug and alcohol addiction for a very long time, for approximately 10 years, I guess it was. But he's now working in the recovery and the addiction field, and he has helped hundreds, if not thousands of people get into treatment. So my husband, and we put a little bit of dark humor on it, but my husband and I always say, if we had known back then that he was on a field research trip for a future career, we wouldn't have taken it so bad. But
you know, you just said it. You said it perfectly, because all things do work out for our good. Exactly. And it's hard, like you said, it's hard to get your head around that because we live in such a performance-minded society right now that only if you do this for me, I'm going to do that for you. If you ask something of me, what's your angle? What do you really want? Why are you connecting with me? Why? But you know, our brains are sort of, we're already programmed to survive. So back when we were, you know, hiding from lions and tigers and bears, our brain was programmed to survive. So through the course of history and through millions, billions of years, we have survival in our DNA. So when we come to a situation and say, what's the worst that could happen? That's from that survival mechanism that's passed down to you in your DNA that you have zero control over. What you do have control over are the words that you speak that will produce the life that you live and giving you certain expectations for the rest of your life. And you can change that in 2 seconds. It first changes right here. You get your thoughts together, your mentality straight. You listen to programs like yours about being brilliantly resilient. You fill your life full of faith and good things. And you know, I'm not saying go skipping through the roses every day naked, although that would make another great video. But I am saying, look at the bright side, see the glass half full. You've got a choice. You know, every day we wake up and we can choose fear or faith. Fear pulls us back into our past. Fear says we're not good enough, we're not old enough, we're not young enough, we're not black, white enough, we're not rich enough, we're not poor enough. We've got all these things. And if you agree with fear, you're going to always settle into your past. Fear is the past. Fear is something that continuously holds you back. Faith, on the other hand, is always pulling you forward. Faith in your future, calling those things that aren't as though they are, saying, you know, it may not be like I want it today, but it's a lot better than it used to be. And I know my future is going to be bigger and brighter. When you agree with faith, you know, again, it says in the Bible, where 2 or more agree touching any one thing, that shall happen. If I agree with fear, I'm going to bring fear into my life.
Yeah.
If I agree with faith and let go of fear, you got to let go of one because they'll pull you in 2. If I let go of fear and agree with faith in my life, then I can move into my future and into what my purpose is on this life, helping other people, basing everything in unconditional love. That's what we have to do every day.
So I think that the root of it, I'm thinking as you're talking about unconditional and you keep saying it, I think where people get stuck is, like I said, that, you know, blindness was nothing. It was just blindness. Like a challenge is just a challenge. But if they believe that God is an unconditional, loving God, that faith, that's when they know that it was given, it's there for opportunity.
Right.
It's not there for hardship. It's there for opportunity. And I was just...
You should go looking for hardship. You should, like when I go work out in the weight room, I work out 3 or 4 times a week. And if I sat there and picked up 5-pound weights every day, I would never grow. But if I pick up the larger weights, if I go to 10 pounds and 20 pounds and 30 pounds and 50 pounds and 100 pounds, as I get stronger, I need to lift more. As you get stronger in your faith, start with baby weights, start with picking up the 2 pounds, but don't stay there. Look for a 5, a 10, a 15, a 20, because the bigger obstacles, the bigger problems that you can pick up and handle, the more you expand. You expand by the demands placed on you. So you expand by demand. Go looking for obstacles. Don't see them as roadblocks or setbacks or anything like that. Go looking for obstacles so you can lift them and grow and become bigger and better. And if you don't want to do it for yourself, do it for your kids. Do it for the people around you, because everybody's watching you.
I love that. You expand by demand.
You expand.
I mean, when you think about it,
that's a t-shirt with brilliantlyresilient.net.
Let's do it, baby. Let's do it.
Right there. You expand by demand. Woo!
And you think about it. Like if I went and played my next door neighbor a game of golf and beat him, that's no big deal because he shoots 100, you know, like he can't even hardly grab the golf club. But if I play Tiger Woods and beat him, like I've been defined by the size of my opponent. I've expanded by the demands I've placed on me. I went out and looked for the biggest, baddest bear that I could play so that when I win, I'll get that victory. So don't shy away from obstacles. Don't shy away from big things in your life. Go for the biggest, go for the best, because you're fearfully and wonderfully made. You are born brilliantly resilient, period. No question about that.
That's what
go out and look for it.
They have to learn it. They think they have to learn to be resilient. It's there. We say uncover.
You know what? Going back to that idea, though, of learning things, it really does tie into what you're saying, because when you go for the greater challenge, that's when you learn. That's when you grow, because you're constantly trying to, okay, then you figure out, well, how am I going to approach this? What do I have to do? What skill set do I have to master? What do I have to, what people do I have to bring into my tribe to do that? So you grow in exponential ways when you take on the bigger challenge and have faith at the basis and the foundation of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. To bring it back to our whole topic today of being faith, if you're not speaking words over your life and meditating and thanking your creator for everything that you have and moving out in faith, when you do all those things, people always ask me, Henry, where do you get your confidence from? I have confidence because I know I can't fail. There is no failure in my life. There's only learning, but there's never failure. I might try to pick up that weight and I may not get it off the ground today, but give me another 30 days and I will lift it, and I will be looking for bigger weights because I know all things work for my good. I know that I've been fearfully and wonderfully created and made. And with that alone, I can do anything. It's not being cocky. It's just being confident in my creator. It's not me at all. It's how I was made. I can't help this. like you can't help that.
I say that to God all the time. Look, you did this.
You did.
So you're gonna have to deal with it. You have to deal with it now.
And that's a great point. No, that's you just said it all right there. Because again, I grew up reading the Bible and going to that many services, so I know the Bible pretty good. But it says that I'm the same yesterday, today, and forever. God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He knows the beginning from the end. So he knows the beginning from the end, and he already knows the end of your life. You think anything's going to surprise him? It surprises us, but nothing surprises him because he already has it handled. Back to our song, he's got the whole world in his hands. If you can lean into that and rest into that you are comforted and guided, led and guided and protected in life, you're going to take all the pressure off yourself and put it on him. And knowing that all things work out for the good, nothing's going to ever bother you again. He knows the end from the beginning. He knew you before he created you.
I know, but I wish that he would just tell me.
Okay, you know why he can't? Because you couldn't use your faith. If he told you, you would have no need to use your faith. And it says without faith, it's impossible, depending on what Bible you read, without faith, it's impossible to please God. So how can he tell you, give you the answers to the test, and not give you a testimony to talk to him about when you got to have the faith to get through that? You didn't know why your two sons were born without sight. You didn't know any of that. But once it happened and once it started unveiling to you, they taught you how to see. Yeah. Like, I love that. You could have never told you, the Kristin a few years ago, that all this is going to work out for your good, and it's perfectly planned. But from what I know about you, Kristin, like, it was perfectly planned. It caused you to expand by demand, and he's got the whole world in his hands.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is incredible that, people think that it taught me, how to handle challenge. And that's what I thought for 20 years, how to be resilient to challenge. And then I was telling you on your show that what it really taught me was what real being a mom is. And that's taking all the hopes and dreams of mine off of them and just literally being the guide on the side and letting them soar. And that,
I love that.
I'm a little bit of a slow learner. I am an overachiever, but a slow learner. That was a 20-year lesson. And that's why I'm like, dude, could you not have hit me over the head with that 10 years ago? No, come on. No.
Yeah. But Kristin, you never could have picked up that 1,000-pound weight if he didn't start you with the 2-pound weight first.
But you know what, too? Yeah. I always say, thank God I was in a faith-based family where we were at church all the time too, and we had to go because we were told to go. But what I had that a lot of people don't have is my parents raised us that way, but we had an unconditional love home. So they modeled what their faith, what their God was. I mean, not that it was like wonderfully loving all the time. I mean, my mother could, no one believes that this tiny little woman could yell the way she could yell at the 5 right?
No, I've seen her daughter, so I could believe it.
Yes, I think most people could, Henry. I think they could.
One thing I have in common. But you always knew that you were loved no matter what happened. So they modeled what the faith was. So when I walked away in anger for a few years, I always say to my kids, thank God I had that foundation to come back to, because I know where I would be, because I saw I see what happens when people stay in anger and bitter and don't move on. I don't want, that's not in my.
Yeah. Hating someone or wishing horrible things on someone else is like you drinking poison and hoping they get sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting though, how God waits for us to come back? Like God never goes because I mean, I went through the same thing with David's situation. Like, you know, I can't take this. I can't do this. Really, like, all right, if that's the way you're going to be, I'm just going away for a while. You know, I can't talk to you right now. And It's like, God's like, that's okay. When you're ready, I'm still here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
no, that's exactly right. And he knows the end from the beginning. And I would say he just doesn't wait for us to come back because he never leaves us.
Right.
We may stop having a conscious thought about him,
yes,
but he never leaves us. So when when I was in college, I would go out on a Friday, Saturday night and try to do all those things that I wasn't supposed to do. And I would wind up in my car, my 77 Trans Am, Smokey and the Bandit, T-top, badass. I mean, I was it. But I would wind up in my parking lot with tears running down my face, listening to praise and worship, and seeing and knowing how my Heavenly Father never left me. He was with me. Well, you can't go into that club because it's going to be blah, 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 blah. He's there with you. He's there with you at the highest mountaintops and the lowest valleys and everywhere in between. It's up to you just to have the conscious thought to acknowledge him. He never leaves you. He's always with you. He's there to lead, guide, and teach you in all things. He loves you unconditionally. Could you imagine ever leaving one of your kids and saying, you still do what you want, just forget it? No, you're always with them. They may not always acknowledge you, but you're always there with them. You're always there to do whatever you can do. I don't care what they say to you, what they call you, what they think, whatever. They're still your kid. And it says in the Bible, if you know how to give good things to your kids, being humans, how much more do I give to those who love me? I mean, it's to me, it's just an incredible message of love.
So let me ask you this: how do you? Because again, at the beginning of the show, I said this: your spiritual side and your persona is I don't want to say it's at odds, but it's not what you expect from someone who's a successful businessman in the secular world that we live in. So how does your faith work with that? How do the two work together in your world?
So I'm a very tough negotiator. I've been told that I'm a very tough business guy, and a tough business guy doesn't mean that I don't like people or don't do the best for them. Tough just means I stick to my guns. I have a certain, thing that I want. I do strategic planning for my own companies and different companies that I consult with. But I always do it, and I have the ability to sort of step out of the situation and see their viewpoint as well. And whether I'm in a tough business negotiation or what, I always abide by what I also learned in church was do unto others as you would wish them to do unto you. So if I can't walk away from a deal knowing that we've both won, it's not worth doing. And these days I won't even present a deal like that. There's times where I'll negotiate people down and pick a number, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 off of a contract. And then I'll turn around when it's all said and done and I don't have to do anything else, and I'll give them back 50,000. And that's not being anything like a normal business guy or a person. That's coming from my heart. That's coming from something that wants to show them that it wasn't about just negotiating with me. It's about me, my spirituality, my creator. And that's what he says to do.
So do you see that when you're in that situation, do you see that negotiator that's going after the best deal is on one side of the fence, and then the spiritual part's kind of on the other side of the fence, and sometimes the negotiator maybe goes a little too far and the spiritual guy goes, let's bring it back here a little bit? I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, do the secular sides and your spiritual sides kind of battle every once in a while? Because I know that happens with me.
Not every once in a while, all the time. So I've got, if I didn't.
Oh boy, am I glad to hear that.
Mary Fran's not bizarrely weird.
Okay.
Yeah. If I didn't have that spiritual side to balance me out and keep me in check, I know I wouldn't be one 1/100th of where I am today. I mean, I know that. I know that beyond a shadow of a doubt. Sometimes, depending on the situation, it's easier to lean into. Sometimes I can lead with that. And sometimes that pulls me back to homeostasis or balance. And when that happens, I don't know if you guys if this ever happens to you, but sometimes I'll be speaking to someone and I'll have another thought hit my spirit that is totally out of left field. Like I've given waitresses $500-600 tips where, you know, God has told me just take out the money in your pocket and give it to them. I did it one time. This waitress was like a horrible person. Like, she was very nasty to the table. I was hosting 25 people and I wound up giving it to her, and she came back and told me that this changed her life. She was being evicted from her apartment tomorrow. She's a single mom. And I got those chills. I got the tears running down my face. I mean, life is more than about just us and business. And if you, again, lean into and listen to that spiritual person on the inside, if you get that inclination and God says, give somebody some money, or just go take them a piece of bread, or go fill up their gas tank, or do something that's out of the ordinary, give them the 50,000 back on the 100,000 you negotiated away from them. Like, doing those things, I think, are essential. They've been essential in my life in showing the difference between a spiritual and just a business person. People ask me all the time, well, that's just business. Isn't this just personal? Isn't that just business? My business is personal. Yeah. And I hope and pray to God that shines through in everything that I do. All of the negotiations, everything. I've had business deals where it starts off really heavy with the negotiation, and I wind up either having prayer with the person or telling them about God. I mean, I'm ready to pivot. I'm ready to change. If I get that inclination, and what I was going to say earlier, if you guys have ever got those chill bumps on your arms when you're hearing something and something hits your spirit, that's the first clue. Like, when you feel that, lean into that.
Yeah.
Acknowledge that. Be aware of that, and watch your life change.
Yeah. It's tuning into those things that they always seem to be like here, but it's always that you have to be ready for it to be open to have that happen. Because, you know, I find that happens with myself. That's why I said, when you said, oh, all the time, I was like, oh, thank God, it's not just me. It's not just me battling, you know, the two little angels on either side of me going, you do this, you do that. Because I do find that because we live in a society that behaves a certain way, that sometimes my tendencies are to react hard to people. And then I'll take a breath, and I'll step away from that for a minute. And then I'm like, okay, you know what? We got to bring this down a little bit. But you have to be willing to take that pause and take that breath and let that spiritual side in.
Well, and people need to know both sides of that equation, because our natural instinct is to react, and that's totally normal. But when you're speaking with somebody else and the shoe's on the other foot and they react that way to you, please know that they're just reacting. Give them a chance to breathe, you know, because somebody can't argue with themselves. So if you just don't get into the argument, you know what I mean? Well, I know a couple of people who probably can.
I know someone that can, trust me.
I can, but for the sake of this argument we're having, we'll say I can't.
Yeah. Excellent. Good psychology. But no, if you understand that too, one of my businesses, I had preschools and early learning centers, and I had 300 employees caring for 1,500 families. And I used to always tell my directors at every one of those locations, when people come in and throw up on you or are nasty to you, know beyond a shadow of a doubt that they've just had a bad experience at home. Something's happened in their work. Like, don't take it personally. Give them a second before you react to calm down a little bit. Take them to their classroom. Take them to their classrooms. Kill them with kindness. And if you're kind to somebody who's trying to attack you, and that's the hardest thing in the world to do, again, because of our natural instincts to come back and fight back. But if you can come back with kindness, watch that person's heart melt, and watch how much better of a situation it can be for you. Even for your own business gain or personal gain. I don't care. Do it for selfishness reasons. Yeah. But know that you've got to step back, give it a second, meet a harsh person with kindness, and watch their heart melt.
Boy, that's a great lesson for Easter, because that's a tough one. It is a tough one, but I've seen that happen, and I think you're exactly right. And sometimes you don't even have to say a word. Sometimes you just have to step back and be quiet and just look at them, and they get it. They're like, oh, maybe I need to.
Yeah, it's like those first 5 seconds.
It's even I think that it's brilliant that you said that, because, and it is a great Easter message, but right now, think about, as everyone is about to step out back into life or whatever it's going to look like, people are stressed as AF. They're so stressed out. They are so stressed. Everybody coming from a horrible, like trying to figure stuff out. So but everyone also, I guess if we go into this realizing if somebody is having that battle with you, who knows what their bills look like now, and who knows, so if everybody goes in this with a little more grace with each other.
Well, what we've even, and I don't know if you knew this about me, not a lot of people do, but I've had a 501c3 for about, gosh, it's probably been close to 30 years now. And we do ministerial work, we do philanthropic work, we help hurting people. And we're just launching, in fact, today, I just found out like 2 hours ago, a little program called Life-Giving Words. And it's at lifegivingwords.org if anybody wants to see it. But what this does, it gives you a text reminder 3 times a day to watch yourself. You can pick a category like spirituality, and you'll get a text in the morning saying, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. You'll get another text at noon reminding you to give thankfulness and be grateful for your situation. And you'll get another text in the evening that tells you the same thing. So especially in these times, if people can just take a second, spend 5 minutes on it, look at that affirmation, read it, be thankful, acknowledge this situation and who you are, and repeat those words over your life and those around you, it will change your life forever.
What a brilliant idea.
That is a brilliant idea.
No, it's amazing. It's totally nonprofit. We don't take any of the profits. It all goes back out to help other people. So I won't get way into that. But if you do want to see that or have something to remind you to be that way and settle you, I do it every day just to settle myself 3 times. At least I know 3 times a day I'm settled. But if they do want to know anything about it, just go to lifegivingwords.org. ORG, 501c3 nonprofit. Everything goes right back in to help hurting people. And for such a time like this, I'm very, very excited about it. So anyway, I didn't mean to go that route, but we were talking about.
I think it's actually was supposed to happen, because I got to tell you, I do the stuff in the morning with starting my day in gratitude and all that, and in the evening. But what I realized has happened in the past 3-4 weeks, since I'm not driving all the time, when I'm in my car during the day, I put on I call it to my kids, my Jesus jams, the K-Love radio. Because everything is, and I can't stand their music. And then now sometimes I do have to rock out to my classic rock, but for the most part.
Mine defaults to classic rock. So
I do sometimes, like, you get me a good Guns N' Roses song on a bad day, and I'm like, right? But
welcome to the jungle, baby.
I do end up putting Caleb on. Well, I'm not in my car anymore, and my kids, it drives them crazy in my house so I realize that all of my resetting during the day, I don't have that anymore. And we'll go for a run and have that on, but and because then I would like start in the morning, and then I'd reset during the day with Caleb, and then at night I'm right. Now at night when I go to do, I like, it's not looking so good how my day went,
But no, this program resets you 3 times a day. And like I was saying earlier in the show, if we don't reset ourselves, we get carried away. And if you're like me, things are like cumulative. So if I start out having some stresses in the morning, and you add more at noon, and you had more in the evening, and I don't have those times 3 times a day to reset myself, I'm a bear. And I can think of a lot worse words to say. Since we're on the faith program today, I am a bear in the evening, and I don't even like myself. But when I can get reset 3 times a day with life-giving words, think about that, life-giving words, it changes my life. Kristin, you said something that was so funny during our interview, and I want to bring this up now if you don't mind. But when we were talking about our faith, because people have approached faith kind of gently and gingerly, and it's like, well, I don't know, what are you going to say? It's like asking somebody to go out like, oh, I didn't really mean it, or you know what I mean? Like, you never want to be that one extending yourself. And so you and I were talking to Faith, and we were kind of doing a little bit of a dance, was she going to be cool with this? And is he going to be cool with that? And we were going back and forth. And finally, when like the ice was broke, which I still talk about that interview, I really, really loved it. But when the ice was broke, it was like, you go, Henry, like I didn't even discover Caleb till like 3 years ago. Like it wasn't like I found my creator or I had prayer or that. You just go, dude, I didn't even discover Caleb until when you were talking about that earlier. It made me laugh.
Well, this has been a delightful way.
I've made people smile. Look at you. Aren't you smiling?
I am.
Oh, no, I know. You, both of you, you're so kind and so genuine. And like, you know how some interviews, maybe not with you guys, but sometimes you'll just get somebody that's just kind of awkward, or you're just not flowing with them. And when you've got the right heart and the right spirit and you bring those things together, you get in that flow that no one can stop. And I promise you, because we've already done the interview, so I'm not trying to get an interview, but you guys have such a wonderful positive flow that huge things are going to happen, even with this show. I mean, I know you've had a lot of successes. You've done TED Talks, you've done all that stuff, but even more so now than ever, as you lean into that real person, that person that changed your life so many years ago, and giving your Heavenly Father acknowledgments and things like that, and not being embarrassed or ashamed, because I've been on that side of the coin too, but leaning into it and presenting it with unconditional love, you're going to be reaching out to tens of millions of people. And whatever this flow is you guys have now, keep it, because it can be felt. It can be felt. Keep the humor, keep all that, because it's who you really are. I don't want to see fake. I don't want to see somebody who isn't who they, they're one way on camera and you get them off camera and they're another way. Like I want you to see everything about me, the bumps and the bruises and all that. If I mess up on a word, screw it, let's go on. And I feel that flow from you guys. So I'm so appreciative to be a part of this.
Oh, we appreciate that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I don't think Kristin and I could fake it even if we wanted to.
Mary Fran wouldn't let us. Mary Fran doesn't let anybody get away with that. She's like, yeah, no.
Yeah, no, that's
okay. When we start, so we just got the banners. Now we're trying to like do this on the fly, right? So I go, look, Mary Fran, we get off of an interview and we're sitting here. She's on my screen every friggin' day, right? And I'm looking at it. I go, here's what I think. I think that, for our brand and all this stuff, and I go, I think we should always be in certain colors. And I'm going through this whole thing, and she goes like this, no. And I'm like, what? And she's like, I'm not doing that.
Good, Mary Fran, that's good.
It was so, and I go, okay. I'm like,
all right, moving on.
Yeah.
Next.
Yeah.
Next.
That's awesome. That is so awesome.
Well, Henry, I can't thank you enough. This has been delightful because, like I said, I'd have little kids running all around and I'd be cooking, and I have to say I missed that. But this was a wonderful way to spend Easter afternoon. So thank you for joining us and sharing your faith with us. It was just wonderful to hear. Very uplifting. Thank you.
It was fun.
Me too. Thank you guys so much, and anytime, and we'll definitely be doing a lot of things together. I can already feel that.
So before we go, we want to hear, we have the life-giving words. Is there any place else people can go to find you?
Yeah, they can. I'm on Instagram, at Henry Penix, Facebook, all the other ones. I actually did a video on TikTok with my daughter. We did this I was in San Diego with her a couple months ago, and we did this little TikTok thing, just a funny thing. So I'm on TikTok, but I've got one video, and I think I've had all but 30 people see it. So
I'm going to show my daughter, because I'm on it. My dogs are on it, and my daughter's like, why are you on TikTok? I'm like, because I'm funny with the dog.
Yeah. Damn it.
Just ask her; she'll tell you.
God. All right, I'm going to check it out. We'll send
if you look at Henry Talk, HenryTalk 7, Henry Talk 7, you'll see that one famous video. But henrypenix.com is my website. And then the 501c3 that we're doing, we did this in conjunction with a company for lifegivingwords.org. And I think for these times, that's probably the place I would suggest people looking for something they can implement today and right now. And we're very excited about that as well.
Awesome.
That's wonderful. Perfect.
And the podcast is Business Fighter, right?
Oh yeah.
Let's hear about that.
Yeah, the business, Henry Penix, the Business Fighter. And I love that. I've met so many great people, and that's how I met you guys. And so in any of these modes, just click and go. And if you don't like it, click off of it. Don't write me about it.
You got to hear Mary Fran, you got to hear the intro of the podcast, because the intro is amazing. And it talks about, it's like our thing with sucker punches. And it's like, you're about to go in the ring with Henry.
Oh, I love that.
It's really cool.
Oh, and you know who did, and I know we got to get off here. I feel like I could talk for an hour.
We could talk all day.
But you know who I had do that? I met one of the guys who was you guys remember the American Gladiators?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That show?
Yes.
So I met one of those guys. We became good friends. I had him on a podcast, and I go, dude, like, I just like your voice. Would you record my, because I had 4 or 5 people, the professional recordings and all that. And this guy comes on and kills it. And he goes, and it's time to get in the ring.
Oh, I love that.
And I said, no, that's it. That's what we're going to do.
I'm such a nerd. I love stuff like that. Well, we turned ours into a podcast. We didn't release it yet. So I went, we went to the top. This is like the best, podcast. We went to the top of the talent pool. I made my son do it. The oldest son, because he has a great voice. And then Mary Fran, I said it to her, she goes, this is amazing. He sounds so good. Tell him he's great. And we're not paying him.
I know. She said that?
I'm like, yeah, Michael, you're great. This is terrific. We're not paying you.
Yeah. Maybe on the 1,000,000th view, you could slip in 20 or something.
We'll toss him a couple bucks then.
Yeah, he's learning copyright and contract law and all that. He's going to send me something, I'm sure. If we hit a certain number, I'll get an email.
He's probably already had you sign something that you're totally not aware of.
I have no idea. Yeah.
Most likely. Well, thank you so much. This has been delightful. What a great way to spend Easter afternoon. And I hope this is the beginning of some other mutual collaborations on things. I look forward to that.
Definitely. It is on my end. You guys let me know, and have a wonderfully blessed day. And, like we were saying, lean into that, lean into who your creator is, and lean into faith. Let fear go. There's nothing you can do about your past anyway. So lean into your future, lean into faith. Take this program right now and share it with 10 people that you think that you can bless, and that it would affect their lives. Like, that's what you can do for us. Like, we sit down, we take our time out and all that. Nobody's getting paid for anything. So just to offer this information, what makes me feel the best, and I think you guys are probably like that, is if you see 100, 200, 300, 500 people like your videos or something, like, it's getting out, and you see all these shares and all of that. So the biggest thing that we would ask is not, you don't have to send anything to anybody except just share this video and bless somebody today.
That's great.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Go out on that one. Thanks, Henry.
All righty. See you guys.
Thanks, Henry.